The next morning, pushing away Young-hee and lying on my side slightly, I began rising up. As if last night was very satisfying, Young-hee's smiling lips shone in my sight. It was quite a good night. Whether it's the influence of the honey I'm not sure, but doing it was extremely different compared to a human. Though it's very apologetic to Kwasiology, who is probably struggling a lot in the continent at the moment, but it felt better. I slowly stood up. As if she was surprised from my action, she quickly covered herself up as she opened her mouth. I'm sorry. It seems that she's apologetic for waking up later than me, but I didn't really reply back. Instead, I stroked her hair once before beginning to head out. Kiri-yuki. Prepare your belongings. Pack up. Heading outside the tent, the first talk among the 5 loyal siblings was already making preparations to leave. The leather pouches made yesterday was full of drinking water that we were to drink, and the racks that the hobgoblins were carrying were full of food for the journey ahead. With this much, the preparation was very satisfactory. I definitely couldn't loiter around, so I began helping out, and after a while, all the greenskins finished their preparations to depart. Kiri-yuki, which direction do we head towards? I spoke towards the direction where I could roughly feel his presence. As expected, it seems he undertook the task of leading us. Soon, a voice replied without much waiting. South. Other than that, I can't tell you anything else. I had somewhat anticipated it. Since this was an exam, I thought that there would be some sort of standard of difficulty. The continent was extremely large. To simply say south might have been very difficult to find the land of glory, but for me, it was a different story. The reason was that I had a bit of the continent's map in my memories. From last time, the north was home to the Queen of the North, the west had the Saint Knights and the Saint Swords. The south also had humans living there as well. If I recall, there was a magician protecting a desert city called Desert Orb. From that city, if you continually head east is the land of the monsters. Of course the humans had called it the monsters' land, but that territory was definitely no entry. Other than the report that evil beasts lived there, there was no other information. The humans entered there and never returned. I had heard a rumor 5 years before my death that the desert city was completely destroyed, so with this rough inference, I thought that the Chief Patriarch's land of glory might be in that prohibited area. Despite being somewhat far-sighted, I never expected the civilization of the monsters to be of this level. Definitely, there should be one. The Chief Patriarch of the land of the monsters. Roughly organizing my thoughts, after explaining the situation to Gorf and Dark Moon, soon we were able to march towards the glorious land. The number was about 200. Who would have imagined that there was currently a large-scale monster movement being undertaken in the search for the Chief Patriarch's land of glory? Kiri-yuki. Let's go. To the land of glory. Boom. 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 As such, we marched. Although I knew that this journey wouldn't be as simple, but it was much more difficult than I had anticipated. As if the forest wasn't the home of evil beasts, it was greatly scarce of their presence. Rather, the place was so well preserved that I had even wondered that this place was a holy place for monsters who have completed the tutorial. That feeling was great. Leaving the forest, what we saw was an empty wilderness. I couldn't help but confirm after seeing the road. If we did not prepare water and food, then there would have been some green skins left behind along the way. Kiri-yuki. Your words were right. Bloodbagger. Seeing this wilderness, Gorf spoke and in return, I nodded my head. The wilderness was extremely long. Truly, I couldn't see anything. So much so that there was even an ant roaming around. A complete, desolate wasteland. But the greenskins walked without stopping. The drumming goblins that were pounding strongly were gradually lowering in volume, and the army's marching speed started to slow down. During this boring time, I either practiced or did image training, and if I was too bored, then I called me or Young-hee and discussed things about this and that. The other clan members were also sharing a lot of their conversations. The goblins among the 5 siblings were the first to talk with me. Kiri-yuki. For Bloodbagger. Seeing me, they greeted me. I had thought my subordinates were quite noisy, but they were strangely quiet. As if they were embarrassed, they started to push each other forward. You go. No. No, you can go first, Girike. Like I mentioned before, the first and second both evolved into orc warriors. Though I'm not sure what they'd evolve into after surpassing the intermediate warrior level, but I was very satisfied by their quick growth. But, noticing that they practiced with their daggers often, I couldn't help but think that they might select the path of an assassin. I was quite anxious thinking about them possibly evolving into an ogre assassin later on. The unique situation, however, was the goblin siblings below. If the orcs do decide to evolve into assassins, then these goblins were really thinking of remaining as goblins to the end, as they were continually evolving into goblin warriors. Already evolving into intermediate goblin warriors, one was a goblin intermediate shield warrior, one was a goblin intermediate hammer warrior, and the last one had chosen to be an intermediate grey sword warrior. Though I had stayed around them for a bit, I was surprised at how much stronger their cooperation techniques were than from what I had expected. What was interesting was that their appearances were gradually becoming closer to that of a human. The other clan superior goblins all had appalling appearances, so I couldn't help but ask how they were able to evolve their appearances similar to a human. How come you guys have faces similar to a human? That. We're not so sure as well. To be honest, Captain, it was from when we heard of your strange fetish. Kiri-yuki. We too like that plant. That plant human and Meve. Like Meve. To speak words like these with completely childlike faces, I had nothing to say. It seems that they too want to make like Meve, but until they evolve out of the goblin race, there will be no instance where I would face those thoughts. The other clan members were, as usual, the same. The ratio of archers was high, and above all, the selection of assassins was high as well. It was quite disheartening to see that no one in the clan had chosen to be a shaman, but I thought it was a relief to have Young-Hin at least. At this time, after 20 days of marching, we escaped the empty wilderness. A distance far beyond our gathered thoughts, we began to preserve our food as much as possible. The army that only had one meal a day found marching hungry to be quite difficult. I'm hungry. Captain, I'm hungry. Just endure a bit longer. The other clans are restraining themselves a bit as well. Interestingly, no complaints arose. Rather, with the food restriction problem, the Gorf clan that eats a lot more than the other clans began to reduce their rations and started to take care of the weak goblins, and thanks to that, the rest followed as well by sharing their rations. Despite that, however, goblins started to collapse. But, the clans fed the collapsed goblins and continued marching on. Before entering the desert after escaping the wilderness, we discovered an oasis. Everyone was thirsty, and in the large oasis, we hunted the surrounding beasts there and resumed our march once again. Despite the hard, painful times, none had any thoughts of having a snack. The canteen in our leather pouches went to study. But our opponent was now the desert. Not long after, our canteens had run out of water. Despite that, the group continued to march. We started to first hunt the sandworms and the long-necked flame lizards found only in the desert. At this time, the archers began adjusting their eyes for prey. And the shamans started to slowly awaken water and other spells to make us all comfortable. The warriors that were enduring the scorching day of the desert had their bodies slowly adjust, becoming stronger, and soon after 30 days, I could sense that the clans has gotten a bit stronger as a whole. The most interesting part was that we haven't met any humans yet. Though we were randomly on a journey, I started to feel that someone was monitoring and guiding us. Though my body was in pain, internally, I was satisfied. With the archers' hunting of the Sundorm-like monsters, we didn't have to curb our appetites, and due to our shaman's increased abilities, drinking water was definitely beginning to be distributed to each of the clans. As the journey continued, the warriors started competing against one another in duels. Though it wasn't a life-or-death battle, it provided quite a large entertainment in this tedious journey. Karayuk. I can feel that I'm getting stronger. Right. Gorf. We're getting stronger. We're getting stronger. That empty wilderness, and that desert that we endured miraculously. All these environments tempered our bodies. I could start to understand the purpose of this exam. It was completely different from that pretense teaching that the humans did. We were truly learning how to survive and become stronger. How come we weren't meeting any humans, and how come the archers weren't encountering really strong monsters? I wasn't able to find any traces leading to that answer. If I had not been a human before, then I wouldn't have questioned why I did not meet any other adventurers from the desert city as I traversed the desert. Like the cities ruled by the Saint Sword and the Queen of the North, Desert Orb was extremely large. I couldn't understand how we haven't encountered any humans at all, contrary to common SENSEWISE. Were they monitoring us? No matter how much higher in level we are compared to the other green skins, compared to the ones that are already on the continent, we were severely lacking. The Chief Patriarch in the Land of Glory expects us not to have other impurities in our ascetic path. About 10 days later, not only me but the other clan members seemed to start to realize that we were being led. By this time, I started to organize my battle methods in my head. In fact, from the moment we departed, I had been strategizing in my head. I learned about the axe from Gorf simply, and assimilated the usage of how to wield the shield and hammer from the 3 goblins. I even picked up the bow from Meve. The duels also continued. Gorf seemed to intentionally avoid a confrontation with me, but occasionally there were times when he looked at me with burning eyes of anticipation. It seems he's determined not to duel with me until I restore my honor I had lost to the Queen of the North. So he and I looked at each other and trained by ourselves. Without a dueling opponent, I pushed my body alone endlessly and wielded the big sword on my back. As such, about 20 days later, we were able to step into the Land of Glory. Captain. I'm curious, Grike. When the Gorf clan fight, they always cry victory or death. The Blood Dagger clan also cries victory. Only for victory. For Blood Dagger, I can somewhat understand what they're trying to say. But, the subordinates of the Chief Patriarch Agar would always cry a war chant I couldn't understand. Grike. It's been a while. So I can't really remember. But it was probably strength, wisdom and honor. What is this? Dark Moon Clan's young goblin. Passing the end of the desert, we entered the forest that looked devoid of life. After walking for some time, we realized how very dense the forest was. Due to the large trees, the clans had to walk around, and afterwards, we could see large plains ahead. Behind that, we could see countless number of green skins. Orc, ogre, goblin, and even werewolves and minotaurus-like races lined up the entrance of the forest. Right now, though there were some that did not possess green skin, I included them since they were the same green skins in the past. Soon, we moved one step forward. A large roar from thousands of voices burst out. For our brothers that have conquered the honorable exam. For our brothers that have stepped into the Land of Glory. Everyone had one hand laying on their chest while shouting towards us. The sight was a spectacle to behold. In this large plain, countless green skims were making way for us who had just entered the land of glory. At the end of the rows upon rows of lined-up green skims was a large castle built of trees. The land of glory. Gorf mumbled as he walked quietly with me inwards. With Gorf like this, the reaction of the goblins and hobgoblins was obvious. They were already jumping here and there while celebrating that they had stepped on the land of glory. Grike. Grike. The Gorf clan has stepped into the land of glory. Blood Dagger clan stepped in the land of glory first. It's the land of glory. It was a difficult journey, but me and Young Hyun were joyfully walking along behind me. The satisfaction that I could never feel as a human swarmed around my body. It was hard, but we did it. Despite continually walking, the lined-up rows of green skims had no end. In a human perspective, it wasn't an exaggeration to call this a city. With this many troops, I thought that it wasn't unreasonable for these troops to conquer the desert city 5 years later, and that each one were of the strongest kind. Of course not all were strong, but if they were to immediately go to any city, they would be ones that would receive the treatment of a third-grade summoned or higher. As such, once we walked towards the end of the lined green skins, the castle gate of the tree castle very slowly opened. We welcome our new brothers that have arrived to the land of glory. What we saw was an orc. A very mal-looking orc. As if he had some age, there were wrinkles on his green skin, but his fangs was larger than any other orc. Soon, he extended his hand and greeted us, causing me to understand who he was. Chief Patriarch. My instincts already knew. I was able to see why the other green skims were so enthusiastic about the Chief Patriarch. Funny enough, there was admiration of respect filling my chest. Ridiculous to even mention, but I began to feel the traces of honorable battles that the orc had lived. This proved that not anyone could be a Chief Patriarch even if you gather and assemble a lot of clans. As such, the old orc gazed at us. And not long after the orc had placed his hand, a thunderous roar from all directions erupted. Strength. Wisdom. Honor. Gorf and I, including all the subordinates, began to naturally raise our hands. Soon, when we pounded our hands on our chests, the Chief Patriarch opened his mouth once more. I am called Chief Patriarch Agar of this land of glory. My brothers. As if his eyes were peering into my soul, I was forced to lower my head in the eyes of the Chief Patriarch. Like that, we entered the land of glory. Entering, I looked around my surroundings. There were tents already installed for each clan to use. What I was pleased with was that all the basic necessities were already dispatched to each individual. Although in a monster's perspective, the basic necessities were just blankets and leather pouches, but for them to still provide us. It seems they had already known the number of clans and the number of each group as a whole. Ad was closed. Kari Yuk, the supervisor that tested us from earlier, had already known about everything. Yes, it definitely seems so. It's so interesting that the monsters are rather more humane than the humans, I assume you want to say? Yes. Yes, just from the tutorial. Funny to admit, I feel more secure and safe after evolving than when I was with the humans together before. She wasn't discussing about the probability of being attacked by monsters, but rather the sentence itself. Young Hyun's figure is definitely beautiful. Probably, with the excuse of protection, there would have been a lot of bastards barking around her in my expectation. Young Hyun, who entered this continent as a human, wouldn't know just how much the humans living in the city are rotten. It seems she's quite satisfied with choosing to become an All-Rawn now, but if she were to hear of the stories inside the city, she would definitely not regret evolving into an All-Rawn. The reason is that if you were to compare it against the human cities, then it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call the land of glory a haven. When you enter a human city for the first time, you definitely receive some treatment. The problem is the aftermath. After the instructors and guilds come and sort out the decent cattle, the rest are blatantly abandoned. The abandoned summoned fates are obvious. For women, they are subjected to become prostitutes, and if their luck is good, they are sold to high-ranking pig bastards, and as for men, they become poor beggars who depart for adventures only to die. Thinking about it now, it's funny, but in Kwasulogy's case, she refused all the proposals of living as a pig's concubine and decided to rather live on her own will by selling her body. Of course, at first she decided to live as a thief on the continent, but things never progressed smoothly as planned. As for me, I was a somewhat lucky case. Though I died ridiculously at the end, but surviving for 10 years was a case where one lived for quite a long time. While I was thinking of useless thoughts, the sudden silence caused me to start staring at Young Hyun. Young Hyun, too, was staring at me as her face reddened. She knew what I wanted roughly. Opening her petals, she began to approach me. For her to aggressively come out like this, it seems that she too wants more. It was then. Blood Dagger. Gorf suddenly opened the tent and entered. Entering and seeing our bodies intertwine, what he said afterwards was even more of a highlight. So you were in the midst of mating. Moderately finish and let's go together. The Chief Patriarch calls. In Gorf's eyes, there was no expression of embarrassment or shock whatsoever. If you were to analyze that, it was just an expression of, so Blood Dagger was mating. It seems that amongst the green skins, these kinds of events were nothing embarrassing, so I just nodded and rose up. Young Hyun was mumbling, "Mom. What should I do?" As she hurriedly entered into the blankets, but Gorf already left the tent. "TCH. I'll be back." "Yes. Take your time." In fact, it is not a couple of times that he got into such an accident. The reason is that he and I were sharing tents. It's sharing by word, but in truth, it was nothing impressive. After being naturally much closer during the journey, from then on, Gorf and I were able to enter each other's tents without permission. The Blood Dagger clan and the Gorf clan also has the atmosphere of not making trouble in each other's camps despite being in same territory. I'm not sure myself, but the fact that the Greenskins share tents is something that happens quite often. It is only possible to live in the same tents in the society of the Greenskins with your family and blood-related brothers, but the fact that they share the same tents could only be possible if they can think of each other as true brothers. I was grateful and happy that Gorf thinks of me as a true brother, but it was also quite embarrassing to have these kind of situations happen as a human. But, still, seeing how he doesn't find me at night, it's a relief that he has some sort of respect for my privacy, but the problem was that I do the same likewise. In the end, I thought that I was at fault for having sexual desires as I began to leave. Drake. So you've come, Blood Dagger? Well, yes, Dark Moon. It seems I'm the slowest. Seeing the clan chiefs heading somewhere together, the goblins began to noisily scream. Drake. The chiefs are going somewhere. Drake. They're going to meet the chief patriarch. The chief patriarch. Those guys are energetic as always. I'm not sure why the chief patriarch called us, but it seems that perhaps he plans on eating a meal together with the new clans that have entered the Land of Glory. Or it might be that he's planning on explaining how this place runs. Anyways, while walking, I began to see places of the Land of Glory enter my sight. To be honest, I couldn't look around since we were so busily moving towards our distributed tents at the time. The Greenskins live a basic lifestyle, but they do have civilization. They build houses, go out to hunt, gather together under one conviction to live a tribal life. But, in this place, these Greenskins were more than I imagined. Their civilization was a lot more developed than I had thought. They had their own rules and way of living. For instance, there are places under flags intended for fighting. Battles are to be done under the chief patriarch's flag. It doesn't matter if you are injured, but you cannot kill the opponent. All trades are to be done fairly. Greenskins that afflict weaker brothers will receive severe punishment. They keep order here. They know what honor is. To an extent where I was proud to be a Greenskin. Looking here and there, we garnered the attention and gazes of the many chiefs once we entered the large chief patriarch's tent made of wood. There was a flag standard behind each chief. There was one drawn of a black snake, and another with a large axe. But, what stood out above all was their power. I wasn't able to know exactly, but I could feel it within my skin. The power here. There were none that were weaker than me. Welcome, brothers. For strength, wisdom, and honor. For Chief Patriarch Agar. We were able to enter the tent once Gorf greeted on behalf of all of us. Bring anything shiny over. I will listen to any request. Anything except killing the Greenskins. Green Goblin Clan's auctioneer. Welcome. Welcome, our brothers. Monsters centered around Chief Patriarch Agar greeted us with a welcome. Everyone raised their hands to their chest once again, so we acted likewise. Sit comfortably. We were able to sit down once Chief Patriarch Agar spoke. I thought it was just words to sit comfortably, but it really seemed that we could sit anywhere. Once we roughly all sat down, a large treatment would be delivered to us as the orcs soon began to show what a large treatment was. A sweet aroma continued to swarm my nose. Alcohol. It seems that they definitely had brewing techniques. When I was a human, I heard that the alcohol made by trolls was delicious, and when I heard that, I discussed against the possibility that monsters were able to drink alcohol in a battle of pros and cons with Quasiology. Seeing this scene, I was forced to admit that Quasiology's argument was right. Raise it. As such, the banquet commenced. There was no act of banging the cup or shouting unlike the first time we met, but we just smiled and exchanged cups. It was definitely delicious. That first aromatic dish. Compared to the cheap drinks that I had used to drink, I felt that this was of a higher quality. Unlike the conjecture that they had called us just not simply to drink alcohol, we were drinking continuously, so at the point where I thought that we would end up just drinking and leaving, Agar looked at us and resumed his talk. Come to think of it, I haven't heard of your names yet. With Agar's words, Gorf was the first to nod his head. It seems it'll start with simple self-introductions. I wasn't used to these kinds of position. To be able to speak my name to the Chief Patriarch is an honor. I am the chief of the Gorf clan, Gorf. It's an honor. Chief Patriarch. I am Kaza, chief of the Dark Moon clan. Following chief was the Dark Moon clan's old shaman. The rest in order introduced their names. Seeing that the clan members weren't speaking, it seems it wasn't appropriate for them to speak. I had plans of introducing myself as Blood Dagger before this started, but thanks to Dark Moon clan's elder, things got a bit more difficult. The reason was that I, indeed, didn't know what my name was. Soon, my turn came, and I was left wavering. Whether I should use my name from my human period, Kimtizung, or if I had to roughly create a similar name, I was in a dilemma. I am Blood Clan's Chief, Blood Dagger. In the end, I expressed myself like this, causing everyone to be suspicious. They weren't expressions which implied that I was rude or reckless, but a truly suspicious face. Thankfully, Gorf was there to solve their curiosity. What Greenskin would hesitate to reveal their name in front of the Chief Patriarch? However, Blood Dagger has lost his honor in his sacred battle. He is ashamed to reveal his name in front of the Chief Patriarch. They began to understand the situation after listening to Gorf's words. It seems that revealing one's name to the Chief Patriarch is the Greenskin greatest honor of honors. It's more of a nightmare than a dream as everyone began nodding. A true, honorable warrior. Even if it were me, I wouldn't have revealed it. A name without honor is useless no matter what. Jerry Blood Dagger. I will remember. Gorf raised my image unexpectedly. I have no choice but to love him. The chief patriarch who had listened to Gorf also looked at me as he opened his mouth. I'll look forward to the day when I can hear your real name. Blood Dagger Clan's Chief Blood Dagger. Blessed are you, strong warrior. It went so far as allowing me to receive a buff as I could feel some power revolving around me. In the end, I had to shout with my hand over my chest. Strength, wisdom and honor. Very good. I have heard a lot about the brothers who came in this time. You are more wise and honorable than I have heard from the chief of Storm Shadow Clan. When the name of the Storm Shadow Clan emerged, one with a large fang bowed his head. His race was that of a troll. Perhaps that was the person that led us in the exam. Anyhow, the chief patriarch continued as he opened his mouth. I have called you to this place to introduce you to some of the tribes that protect this land of glory, and also to help you to survive in this land. My brothers. I am grateful for the offer, but Gorf Clan does not need help to survive in this place. Chief Patriarch. We are not trying to push aside your honor. Honorable warrior Gorf. From the chief patriarch's words, Gorf was slightly roused. But, the chief patriarch had an expression that he understood. It seems that he had experienced facing a lot of warlike warriors like Gorf. I was able to roughly understand what the chief patriarch was saying. In this continent, amongst the humans, there were a few that were extremely strong. If the previous Saint Sword or the previous Queen of the North clashed against our entire clan, we would be totally annihilated. So far as not even being able to inflict a wound before being defeated. It is highly likely that the words of the chief patriarch meant to suppress these kinds of the headstrong mentality as much as possible. It seems my expectations were right. The chief patriarch opened his mouth and asked me, Warrior, Blood Dagger who has lost one's honor. Who was the one that had a sacred battle against you? A sudden question out of nowhere. But, I could understand his point in doing so. It is a female warrior of the humans. The chief patriarch nodded his head and did not laugh like the chiefs of our tribe. Rather, it seems that everyone had expressions of agreement. In this world, the humans are truly strong. Honorable warrior Gorf. No matter how brave you are, there is a boundary. This chief patriarch Agar wants you to survive to the end and engrave true honor onto this land. It is not a rule intended to suppress your freedom. My brothers. You can head anywhere you like on this land and place your flag. However, we are one tribe. When great power is needed, we will fight together, and die together. Chief Patriarch Agar. He is quite an impressive display. And much more than I had imagined. I don't know exactly how long it's been since Agar had come into this world, but if it were not for the great patriarch, the Greenskins might have been unable to survive in this land. The majority of the Greenskins were warlike. They wanted to battle instinctively, and desire to be in the battlefield. If it were not for the chief patriarch, the Greenskins would have had short lives as they would attack human settlements the moment they were summoned. I was finally able to roughly understand the purpose of the previous exam now. The strength to survive. The wisdom to wage war. The knowledge of patience. If it were the previous warlike Gorf, he could have rejected the words of the chief patriarch. But, after learning patience in the desert and wilderness, the current Gorf was much more different now than before in my opinion. As expected, I was able to see with my eyes as Gorf raised his fang to open his mouth. Understanding, but not wanting to understand. But, the eyes of his empathized with the words of the chief patriarch. I will follow the will of the chief patriarch. With Gorf nodding his head, the others also began to nod. We will follow the will of the chief patriarch. Thank you. My brothers who know honor. At this time, I was curious of something so I asked the chief patriarch. What do you mean to be free to go wherever we so desire? Chief patriarch. It literally means what you've asked. Blood Dagger. You are free to go wherever you want to go in this vast continent. The land of glory is where the Greenskins gather. However, the Greenskins are spread throughout the continent. For instance. Yes. The White Silver Fang clan's chief, Silver Fang over in this spot is settled to the north of the continent. From Chief Patriarch's words, the White Werewolf sitting still followed up with a reply. The harshness of winter. The Chief Patriarch satisfactorily nodded his head and resumed. In the case of the Minotaurus chieftain clan, they are centered in the middle of large prairies. I received the will of the great prairies. One snotty Minotaurus replied to the words of the Chief Patriarch. The Storm Shadow clan's trolls are to the eastern swamp. Victory and honor will never subside. I was able to get a rough sense of where the Greenskins lived in this continent. Numerous Greenskins rooted in the continent were living independently in their own places in their own way. Like a large spider web. Though it's obvious, the center of the web is this land of glory protected by the chief patriarch Agar. I do not know where you want to put the flag of your clans yet, but you can choose. 3 years. After exactly 3 years, you will be able to put up your new flags. To summarize, it was like this. We are able to select which territory we want to live in. However, it is only an independence by name. The other chiefs sitting around the chief patriarch are protected. If you choose to be independent after 3 years, go to an unclaimed spot and put up your flag there. Of course, we are literally living together with another tribe. All Greenskins will be equal. We will not touch each other's clan, and they will not mind as long as you do not harm their clan no matter what you do. But we will fight together. If a war emerges, then we will rise together with our backs to Devside and fight. Not bad. I had wanted to make this kind of request in the start. A reliable shield has appeared for 3 years. It's a great opportunity to learn how the monsters here live and survive. The problem was where to go. I naturally began looking around. Certainly there are those who are holding the place where I used to live. Of course I know of them. Green Goblin Clan. A clan primarily consisting of green goblins. They are fast and enjoy attacking beginner adventurers. The symbol of their flag is drawn sloppily over Green Goblin's face. They are extremely cruel and famous for their ferocity, so much so that famed adventurers would avoid this group. But, I am not a human now. I started to turn to see if he was here, and soon afterwards I could see a goblin with a playful face in sight. He's here. While I was having various thoughts, the Chief Patriarch continued to introduce the other guys. I had to consider the possibility of moving to another side, so I began to focus on listening to the other guys. Soon, all the introductions came to an end, and the selection phase neared. Fortunately, the Chief Patriarch concluded the day, so we are able to scatter from the Patriarch's tent pavilion and return to our tents.